Welcome to Spaceport America Airport Operations Area Recurrent Driving Module. This module includes audio.
The intent of this training is to promote the safe operation of vehicles on the airfield, which is essential to normal aircraft and maintenance operations. Carelessness, haste, and a disregard for established safety standards are major factors in aircraft vehicle collisions, incidents, and personal injuries. The purpose of this training is to provide a refresher of knowledge for established procedures to govern all vehicle operations on Spaceport America's movement and non-movement areas.
It is important to remember that Virgin Galactic is a customer at Spaceport America. How we conduct ourselves on the AOA must be within the guidance provided by the state of New Mexico, who operates the spaceport complex. Every person who in the course of their duties may be required to operate vehicles in aircraft movement and non-movement areas must be trained in safe operation. Only trained personnel may be assigned duties that include driving on the airfield. The use of vehicles on the airfield will be limited to the absolute minimum necessary to accomplish the mission. Spaceport America is operated as an uncontrolled airfield. It is the pilot's and driver's responsibility to transmit on Unicom frequency. Wait for a response from aircraft or other vehicles. Visually check the runway and traffic pattern for aircraft and any other situation which may compromise safety before proceeding onto the movement area. Airfield drivers must exercise their best judgment if they encounter situations that are not covered by published guidance. Make the airport safer by placing all trash in a covered container that will not be blown over. Avoid tracking mud and rocks onto taxiway and runway surfaces. Vehicles must come to a complete stop before entering the airfield, either at the runway hold line or on the vehicle access road immediately inside the north and south AOA gate. The vehicle operator must turn on the vehicle's emergency flashers, exit the vehicle, and perform a thorough FOD check before proceeding onto the airfield. The vehicle operator must examine each tire and remove stones and/or debris caught within the tire tread. While walking around the vehicle to examine each tire, drivers must also check the truck bed for loose items and bumpers and running boards for materials which may have become loose. The driver must then re-enter the vehicle and move forward approximately 2 feet to expose the tire tread that was previously hidden from view, and then re-examine the tire treads of each tire. FOD that is found and removed must be deposited in a suitable container for disposal. Drivers are reminded that after performing FOD checks, they must follow normal rules and yield to aircraft and vehicles on the ramp before entering the airfield. Exit the airfield via the shortest authorized route. If FOD was tracked onto pavement, the driver must report the incident to the airfield manager or director of aerospace operations as soon as possible. The airfield manager or director of aerospace operations will inspect the area and arrange for a FOD sweep if necessary. Vehicles operating on the ramp adjacent to GTS will perform a FOD check at the beginning of each day, but will not be required to perform continuous FOD checks each time they access the movement area. The Airport Operations Area Gate requires badge access. This controls vehicle and pedestrian access. When the Spaceport Operations Center is not staffed, security personnel monitor the Unicom frequency and maintain awareness of activities in the movement area to the extent possible. They coordinate with the Aerospace Operations Group that has authority over airfield activities. Security personnel who observe driving violations will report incidents to the Aerospace Operations Group. Use the vehicle as a roadblock after passing through the gate to prevent another vehicle from entering the AOA. Wait until the gate fully closes before continuing to your destination.
RedGuard is our propulsion control room suite that provides blast-resistant protection during our oxidant and pressurant tanking operations. Information at this control room is fed to our mission control room, Horizon.
Signs, lighting, and markings are standard and meet all criteria required by the FAA. All airfield vehicle operators must know and comply with all airfield signs and markings. Runway markings are white. Runways have white numbers on each end, center line stripes down the middle, and may have white lines along the edges. Runways that are served by an instrument approach will have more elaborate markings such as those shown in Figure 1.1. Taxiway markings are yellow. Taxiways are areas used by aircraft to get to and from the apron or ramp and the runway. Taxiways look similar to runways, but are usually not as wide. Instead of numbers, taxiways use letter and number combinations for designators. Take note of the 4 common signs used at Spaceport America. Black background with yellow letters and/or numbers. These signs and surface painted markings indicate your location. Black square, you're there. Location signs are yellow legend and border on black background, indicating the surface on which the aircraft is operating. While primarily indicating taxiway location, these also may be used to indicate runway location at potentially confusing areas. These signs and markings with a yellow background and black characters indicate the direction toward a different taxiway leading off a runway or out of an intersection. Runway distance markers are located on the east side of the runway. They are spaced at 1,000-foot intervals and indicate the distance remaining on the runway. Aprons and ramps have markings for aircraft parking and tie-downs. Some airport aprons or ramps also have special markings for vehicle operations. If there are vehicle or roadway markings, you should always drive your vehicle within those marked areas. In addition, taxiways may be marked on the apron to show aircraft routes to gates and parking areas. A single solid line, along with single dashed yellow lines, is a marking that divides the movement and non-movement areas on the airfield. When you are positioned on the solid line side of the marking, or the non-movement area, ATC clearance is required for you to drive across into the movement area at towered airports. The runway safety area boundary markings are black on yellow and are visible only when exiting the runway. Runway holding position markings are painted yellow on the taxiway pavement and co-located with a holding position sign. This is an airport version of a stop sign. As you approach the runway, you will see 2 solid yellow lines with 2 dashed lines. Prior to reaching the solid lines, it is imperative that you stop and do not cross the lines until you have clearance from ATC. When the tower is closed or you are operating at a non-towered airport, you may cross only when the runway is clear of aircraft and then cross with extreme caution. Always look both ways before you cross any runway. Please note, when exiting a runway, you will see these same markings, except your vehicle will be approaching the dashed lines. Your vehicle must completely cross both the dashed and solid lines to be clear of the runway. This sign may be posted or painted on the pavement. It has white characters on a red background. This sign or marking is co-located with the surface painted holding position markings on taxiway and runway intersections. Runway boundary hold lines are identified with yellow reflective markings. The markings consist of 4 yellow lines, 2 solid and 2 dashed, spaced 12 inches apart and extended across the width of the taxiway. The dashed lines are closer to the runway center line, and the solid lines are always on the side where the aircraft or vehicle are to hold. Enhanced hold lines are located perpendicular to the existing hold line. Individuals requiring runway access or crossing must stop at this line and broadcast on Unicom their intentions prior to proceeding. Always yield the right of way to taxiing aircraft and give them plenty of room. If an aircraft is headed toward you on the same taxiway, move to the right out of the aircraft's way. Always carry your radio tuned to the airport's Common Traffic Advisory Frequency, or UNICOM. If an aircraft is about to land on a runway that you need to cross, stop well clear of the runway. Continue to yield to the aircraft until it has landed and taxied off the runway. Be aware that some aircraft at non-towered airports are not equipped with radios. The non-movement area is the Virgin Galactic ramp area to the point where Taxiway Victor joins the east end of the ramp and the ramp space east of the fabric hangar. The speed limit is 10 miles per hour anywhere on the Virgin Galactic ramp and walking pace within 25 feet of any aircraft. These speed limits apply to any vehicles operating on the VG ramp. Please note, speeds faster than 30 miles per hour on the runway may be approved by the airfield manager or by the aerospace operations director if it can be shown to be safe and prudent for a given situation.
Visual clearance can be difficult on such a long runway as found at Spaceport America. Exercise due diligence to ensure the runway and airspace in the traffic pattern are clear before moving into the runway environment. Maintain situational awareness.
Together, runways and taxiways are known as movement areas of the airfield. Airport diagrams provide the layout and designations of runways and taxiways, show major facilities, and are essential to navigating the airfield surface. If you are required to drive on or work in areas adjacent to runways, be aware that aircraft wings and engines may extend over these areas. Stop and reference the airport diagram or use the radio for assistance if you become uncertain of your location on the movement area. Know your airfield markings, signs, and lighting. Be careful not to hit taxiway edge lights. Aircraft cockpit windows have a limited viewing area. It can be difficult or impossible for pilots to see vehicles and pedestrians, particularly behind the wings or under the nose of an aircraft. Always yield the right of way to moving aircraft. Do not assume the pilot will see you, especially in busy areas like aprons or ramps where pilots are busy with pre-flight checks. If a pilot is about to start the engine or the engine is running, the aircraft's red rotating beacons should be turned on as well. The movement area at Spaceport America is designated as Taxiway Victor, the turnaround areas, and the runway. Any vehicle which requires access to the movement area will be equipped with operational VHF radio equipment capable of positive two-way contact on the Unicom frequency of 122.9 MHz. It is the pilot's and driver's responsibility to transmit on the Unicom frequency, wait for a response from the aircraft or other vehicles, visually check the runway and traffic pattern for aircraft, and any other situation which may compromise safety before proceeding onto the movement area.
Aircraft approaching a runway for landing usually follow a standard landing pattern. Most runways are positioned so planes will take off and land into the wind. Observing the wind direction of the windsock will assist you in determining the aircraft landing direction. In most cases, the pattern is a rectangular box with the pilot making all turns to the left. In some cases, airports will use right traffic patterns. However, don't assume all aircraft will always be flying in the standard pattern. It is not required, only recommended. So keep a visual lookout to the sky, just in case a pilot decides to fly a straight-in approach and doesn't enter the traffic pattern. Similarly, if a pilot announces short final, expect the aircraft's landing to be imminent.
Extra vigilance is essential at non-towered airports. While there may be CTAF or Unicom frequencies available, pilots are not always required to communicate or announce their position in the traffic pattern or on the surface. As a result, the driver can be lulled into complacency because the airport is not very busy. Nevertheless, always remain alert for the unexpected even when traffic levels are light. Another factor involves the runway angle or slope, which makes it difficult or impossible to see the entire length of the runway. An aircraft can suddenly appear on a runway when you are crossing. Generally, it is good practice to cross runways at their ends. The AOA is inclusive of all the property and buildings within the secure environment. The movement area includes all dirt access roads within the AOA beyond the non-movement area. Remember that VHF radios are required at any point beyond the non-movement area.
In a letter dated July 27, 2012, and effective August 2, 2012, the FAA-DOT approved Virgin Galactic the telephony designator of Galactic and the three-letter identifier VGX for air-ground communications and flight planning with ATC. FAA Advisory Circular 120-26J explains prescribed criteria and conditions of usage of these assignments. Ground vehicles at VG are often referred to as Galactic Mobile.
Spaceport traffic, spaceport traffic. Galactic Mobile 13. At Victor. Entering runway to Alpha 1. Spaceport traffic, Galactic Mobile 13. At Victor, entering runway to Alpha 1.
At a non-towered airport such as Spaceport America, you do not need controller permission before entering a runway or taxiway. When approaching runways and taxiways, stop, look both ways, and listen for aircraft that are landing or taking off. Vehicle windows should be open to do this properly. Alert others when you are using a taxiway or runway by always making an announcement on the radio before you enter. Be specific with your location and intentions. All personnel operating a vehicle on the Spaceport America movement area must be trained on local driving procedures and be licensed to operate a private, government, or contractor-owned or leased vehicle. If training has not been completed, the individual must be escorted by an authorized vehicle driver on the airfield. Untrained individuals may be escorted by an authorized driver either in the same vehicle or in a separate vehicle. It is the responsibility of the escort to ensure that anyone being escorted is informed of and follows safe driving practices set forth in the Spaceport America Airfield Driver's Guide. Untrained personnel found to be in violation of these procedures are subject to sanctions up to and including being removed from Spaceport America. The driver must put the transmission in park, turn the ignition off, set the parking brake, and install the wheel chocks when exiting the vehicle on the ramp. Thank you for participating in this training activity.